Gerry Dulac, he covers the Steelers for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, hosts the Steelers radio network as well, and kind enough to join us before he heads to camp. I saw where Ben showed up, clean-shaven-ish, and he had a shirt on that said different there, Gerry. So are you forced to then write about how great Ben looks now?
Well, I will tell you, Dan, that despite what people think the last 3 or 4 years, he has come to camp in wonderful shape. You know, he's hired a nutritionist, he's hired a trainer. He looks especially good now, especially trim. People forget he's a big man. He's a 6'5", 250-pound guy. But I have to admit, as well as he has looked every year coming to camp, he looks especially well and fit yesterday, certainly in that picture.
Is he the fourth best quarterback in his own division?
Yeah, I think that's a bunch of baloney. That's based on, that's just based on future possibilities. But I mean, Ben's a proven winner, and 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 titles, a number of playoff victories. His numbers speak for themselves. And even last year, Dan, I think, when you think they got off to that 11-0 start, he's coming off major elbow surgery. And at one point after 11 weeks, he's being talked about an MVP candidate. Forget about comeback player of the year. Then he had that little slump, and he had a big second half in the Indy game, over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns that snapped him out of that slump. And then after that, that terrible start against the Browns, the bad snap on the first play from scrimmage. In the second half, again, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, made every throw possible. Ben is still Ben. Okay, yeah, he's 38. He's not the same guy he was when he was 28. But this idea that he's the 4th best quarterback in the division, just based on future possibilities of the young guys in the division, to me is a little far-fetched.
Why do you think there was some trepidation? It felt like maybe on the Steelers' part of, do they want him back? And at what price do you get him? Is that a correct impression of what happened here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you that Ben actually thought that they were trying to force him to make the decision for them. I was surprised on one hand, but not because they did eventually do what I thought they would do. But they knew they had to do something with that salary cap hit. But feeling that they were in position to move on from him with all the changes they were making or thought they were going to have to make. And as it turns out, some of those they didn't. I'm certainly not surprised that he's back. I expected that all along. But I have to admit, Dan, I was a little surprised that there was some hesitation. I always thought it would be Ben would go out on Ben's terms and nobody else's. And for a while, it looked like it wasn't going to be on his terms.
What did you make of their offseason in Pittsburgh?
Well, the funny thing is they thought a lot of the changes were going to be on offense and not on defense. They thought, maybe Ben was going to be gone. They knew they were going to move on from James Conner. They thought Juju Smith-Schuster would be gone. They knew Marquise Pouncey was going to retire. And of course that happened, and they did move on from James Conner. But the funny thing is a lot of their changes, Dan, ended up being on defense. They lost 3 starters. They kind of anticipated that might happen with Bud Dupree and maybe even Mike Hilton. But now you throw in the retirement yesterday of Vince Williams, a guy that they had released after the season, decided to bring back just to kind of plug that hole for one more year. And then he retires on them. So I think their offense, there's a lot of changes. They weren't counting on David DeCastro moving on from him. That was injury related. So the changes on the offensive line, they kind of somewhat knew that was going to happen, but they didn't plan on DeCastro. So some of those changes they counted on, some they didn't. I think they're better offensively. I think they're a little less ferocious on defense.
Let me get a quick hit on the other teams in the division. Let's start with the Bengals. What do you expect?
Well, until they show that they can move up to be a 500 ball club, I'll wait and see. It's kind of like the Browns 2 years ago. The Browns had to show me they could do it again, and they did. But I like Joe Burrow. I think he's going to be a fantastic quarterback. I hated to see the injury last year. You hate to see that happen to any kind of promising young star. I think they'll be better. But I mean, I think the Browns are legit and the Ravens are the Ravens. The Ravens are very much like the Steelers. Even when you don't think they're going to be very good, they're good. That's a salute to their organization. But there's no reason to think, look, I'm not going to sit here and pronounce that the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl. But as I tell everybody, Dan, I mean, who would have thought they'd start 11-0 last year? Who thought they'd go 12-4 and win a division? I can tell you, not too many people, certainly around here. And my feeling has always been, as long as you have number 7, you're not out of any game and you're not out of any season.
Gerry, great to talk to you, and hopefully we'll catch up with you during the season. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, Dan, anytime, and good to chat with you.
All right. Gerry Dulac, he covers the Steelers, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, host on the Steelers Radio Network.